Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Well, today I would like to talk to you a little bit about continuing on our series on casual and contemporary prepping. And I would like to talk about what happens when stuff hits the fan, okay? If something is going on and you've prepared, you've got your food, you've got all these things, but what happens when there is a real situation, okay? What happens, let's say it's a major situation, not just loss of income or something like that. It's a major thing going on. Could be a war, could be a civil war, could be a meteor impact, could be a whole lot of different things. You've survived it, but what do you do now? That's what I want to talk about today. It's a topic that preppers fail to really think about, or they fail to plan for. This is all about planning, and you need to have it clear in your mind and everybody that you're prepping with's mind exactly how the plan should be executed. So let's talk about the way you should plan if crap hits the fan. Okay? Let's get at it. The very first thing you should do is have a plan. If we had a disaster here on the homestead, everybody knows that where our designated meeting area is. So if something happens, that's where we all go. All right? We have a designated meeting area, and we all go there so that we can count heads. And it's not in the house, okay? It's out away from the house. So everybody goes to that spot. What if the house catches fire? You know, that can't be your designated spot. Do you see what I'm saying? Everybody wants to stay in their house. I want to. Bugging out is probably not going to be good for me. So I have to have a plan for bugging in or staying on property or that kind of thing. So you need to know all of your exits. You need to know all your exit strategies. Our roadway is going to be blocked. I know that down here in the village, if we get a major flood, the village roadway is going to be blocked off, and I can't get out that way. Okay? If it floods enough for here, where I live, we'll be looking for Noah. Okay? So where I live, I shouldn't have problems with a flood. But who knows what will happen if we have a major incident like an asteroid impact or something like that, okay? You need to be able to communicate with everybody. Now, you've got that cell phone that you carry in your pocket, okay? This has every phone number in it that I know, all right? My doctor, the hospital, Crystal's phone number, or my boy's phone number, all their friends' phone numbers are all in this phone. And I don't remember a damn one of them. Okay? So every phone number that's in this phone is also written on a piece of paper and in my wallet. And there's one in Crystal's purse. All right? There's also one in a storage container. All right? So who knows what will happen in order to get in contact with those folks. Some folks would rely on ham radios. So a little ham radio, one of those little handheld jobs that's good for about 5 miles, they're an awesome little thing. You might want to consider those. But you need to keep that list of emergency contacts in a safe place where you can get to it in case your cell phone don't work. All right? Landlines might be out. The tower might get knocked out. All right? Your cell tower. Or we might have a solar flare. Imagine a solar flare, and it's disrupted communications between the cell towers. All right? It'll also disrupt communications in your landline too. Here on College Hill Farm, we've got a landline because, you know, that's what rural people do. When cell signal is only 1 or 2 bars, we have a landline. Okay? The regular prepping stuff. Your supplies. You need to have at least a gallon of water for everybody that you're going to host at your location. You need to have a gallon of water a day for at least 5 days. Okay? You need to have that much potable water stored up. Because if you're on a water system like us, we're on Garrett County water, well, that water's going to be non-usable in a short amount of time. Now, our power goes off, we've still got water. All right? Our electricity goes off, we've still got water. But we've just got water until the tank down the road here is empty. And then we don't have water anymore. Okay? So when the water in the tank gets below the level of our house, then we have no water anymore. So you got to have potable water for everybody in your group. Now, something that you should know. Everybody's water heater has a drain on the bottom of it. All right? If you've got a 40-gallon water heater, you have 40 gallons worth of potable water there just in case. Just saying, okay? You have 40 gallons worth of potable water in your water heater. All right? Just saying. You can also collect rainwater. So those are options. Of course, you need to have plenty of non-perishable food. You need to have enough food. We keep enough food for a year. 6 months is about as low as we go, but we eat what we have. Medical supplies. You need to have a supply of medications. When I get my maintenance medications, I get no less than 3 months at a time. I buy it 3 months at a time. So at any one time, I have close to 3 months worth of medication. Now, for those of you that have to have medication to be alive, it might be a problem. Okay, so you gotta think about those things. That might become a problem, and some people are just going to die because they don't have enough medication. Just the way it is, it's hard to stock up prescription medication. It just is. It's hard to stock up prescription medication. You need to have flashlights and battery-powered things so that you have lights or a battery backup, a generator. We'll talk more about generators in a minute and about not being seen. Okay? The next part we want to talk about is self-defense and security. Now, when we talk about self-defense and security, you need to understand that the best self-defense is to not get into a situation where you need to defend yourself. All right? Avoidance is the number one thing. Preppers call it gray man. You never want to stand out in a crowd. It's just, you just want to look like one of the people. You don't want to stand out. You don't want people to know that you've got things. You don't want people to know that you're armed. You don't want people to know any of that. Okay? You don't want to stand out in a crowd. And the best way to survive a confrontation is to not have one. All right? The best way to survive a confrontation is to just not have one. But you need to plan for weapons that you can carry on your person. You need to plan for weapons that you keep in a secure location, okay, that you can get to. You need to plan for that. Now, I don't know what your legal status is, but you should plan to be able to defend yourself. You should be able to fortify your home or wherever you're at if something goes wrong. You should be able to fortify that in such a way that people would have a hard time even getting at you. Okay, so that's an important thing. Home defense is one of the most important things. You need to be aware of where your problems would come from and plan for those. Everybody in your group needs to be planned for those. Also, training is one of the best things you can do, especially when it comes to handling weapons. You need some kind of training. Training is, and not everybody's good at training that stuff. You know, pointing a gun at somebody's hot. All right? A lot of people would have a problem pointing a gun at somebody and pulling the trigger. They would hesitate because that's what they do. They would hesitate. And that's a hard thing to even think about. I don't want to point a gun at my neighbors over a tater. So that's a hard thing to think about. But you could think about noise devices, warning devices that would alarm when somebody comes up your driveway. Cameras can help, but in all honesty, if all the electricity goes off, cameras are going to be of little to no use. So other noise-making devices might be appropriate. So just think about those, and those are some of the things that you should come up with. Now, the next one is situational awareness. If something is going on, you need to be able to pay attention and catch social cues. Bad people will tell you what they're going to do. Okay? Bad people will tell you what they're going to do. They'll brag about it. Pay attention. It's one of those things that you need to pick up on social cues. Things can become violent in a short amount of time, and certain preppers have a predisposition to violence, and you need to be ready for that. And that's something, I don't have a predisposition for violence. I feel like the best violence is no violence. You can avoid violence most of the time, but you may get into a situation where violence is just going to happen, and you just don't want to go down that road. Okay? If you have to give up minor things, okay, to avoid a confrontation, do that. Okay? But you can't give away the farm. All right? You can't give away the farm because they'll take all they can. So you just have to be ready for those kinds of things. Avoid crowds. Large crowds can turn stupid in just a few minutes. Okay? Especially if you're in the center of a large crowd and it's turned stupid, you're in harm's way. And large crowds can turn stupid real fast. Practice those gray man things. Try not to look obvious. Try not to look suspicious. Just pass through and go away. Pass through and disappear. Okay? You don't want to stand out in a crowd. You have to assess the threats around you. There are going to be threats, all kinds of threats. Everything from diseases heading your way, because people who are starving get diseases. That's just a thing that happens. A lot of the new diseases, you'll notice, come from the third world. Okay, when we get a new disease, it comes out of the third world generally. Every now and then, one can pop up. The 1918 flu originated in Kansas at a pig farm. Okay, the 1918 pandemic. So the swine flu pandemic, it originated on a military base in Kansas. So they called it the Spanish flu because that was propaganda at the time, but it started right here in America. So you need to assess threats that are coming at you. You're going to have people, if it's a major thing, you're going to have people that are hungry, that are desperate. And you can assess those threats. Most people are not a threat, okay? But you're going to have a few that will be a major threat. And you just have to assess those threats as they come and try and do the best you can. Okay, the next one is health and hygiene. You need to plan for your general health. Of course, you need to have your medications. You need to have a supply of medications stored up. But you also need to plan for hygienic things. It's not only the water for drinking that you need. You need to be able to clean up, to take a bath. It's easy to have a set of disposable washcloths. Okay? They sell them at the Dollar Tree for $1.25 for like 8 of them or 9 of them. And you've got these disposable washcloths that can be used to help you maintain hygiene. Hygiene is going to be one of your biggest problems. And make sure, guys are terrible bad to have holy underwear. Okay? If you're having to live in the same underwear you need to have plenty to change. You need to have plenty of socks to change. Get good quality socks that you can change and wash out in a small amount of water. Okay? Socks, your feet are going to be one of the most prone to injury things in a situation in which you're having to do a lot of work outside. You're raising your own food by manual means. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Your feet are going to be very important to maintain. You need to maintain the right emergency health supplies. Like you need to have bandages, and you need to have triple antibiotic ointments, and you need to have those kinds of things, so that if something happens, you have something to treat a wound or even a boil. A simple boil can turn out to be an infection. Okay? Just a simple pimple right there can swell up, and you mash it and it gets infected and it can kill you. So you need to have the little things on hand that will keep that hygiene clean. You need to watch for your mental health. Stress, extreme stress, causes irrational thinking and bad decision making. So you need to plan for your health in a way to maintain your stress level. Stress levels will kill you in a bad situation. Stress levels can be one of the worst things that causes you to mess up. All right, it can cause you to think irrationally. So you need to plan for your mental health and do the things that you have to do to maintain your mental health. And now the hardest thing for me, I'm 62 years old and I'm overweight, and I can work all day long outside. I can't run, all right? If I have to run to a bug out location, I'm done for. And I know that. I know that. But if somebody has to route me out of my place, they're going to have a hard road to hoe. You see what I'm saying? So it's one of those things that you need to be physically able to do the things. Now, as I age, I'm going to get to the point that I'm not physically able. All I'm going to have to impart is knowledge. So that's going to be up to the other folks in my group, and we're going to get to that part in just a minute. So you need to maintain your physical exercise and try and keep from having to take all those heart medications, okay? Try and keep from having to take all those heart medications and all that diabetic medication. So those are things that you're going to have to look out for. The next one is about being resourceful. You're going to have to adapt to situations on the fly. Things are going to happen, and those around you will know how you're going to react. Me, I don't get ruffled by much, okay, anymore. When I was younger, I got ruffled real easy. Would get mad and fly off the hand. I don't do that much anymore. I'm pretty even keel, so I'm able to look at things, assess it, and adapt to those threats or those different situations. At one point, you're not going to be able to get, you may not be able to get gasoline. You may not be able to get other stuff, but I know how to garden without gasoline, okay? I know how to garden without fertilizer, all right? Those kinds of things. I know how to do those. So you'll have to be resourceful in the things that you manage to do. You'll have to use things that are not made to be used for that purpose, but you can adapt them so that you can use it for a purpose. I do that all the time. That's one of the big things here about homesteading. Reuse, reuse, reuse. Reuse and modify. So that you can keep using stuff over and over and over, and you're not always having to buy new stuff. Barter. At some point in a major situation, money will be absolutely useless. Okay? If everybody around's hungry, money's useless. If there's nothing to buy, money's useless. So having a big store of money, you should always have cash on hand. Okay? You should always have cash on hand in a secure place. But in a major deal, cash is going to be worthless. People find all the time that cash is worthless. Barter becomes the way. Okay? Barter becomes the way. You might be able to trade a can of pears for a bunch of 22 shells. Who knows what you can trade for, you know? You might barter 22 shells for potatoes. Okay? So there's a whole thing there. You might barter services. Okay, you do this for that. That happens all the time in homesteaders. I'll help you do your fence. You come over and help me build my tractor shed. Okay? You see it all the time. Bugging in and bugging out. For me, I'm too old to run and bug out. I can't. If I sleep wrong, I'm killed. So I'm bugging in. But if you're young enough, you might have a location that you can bug out to. Now, here where I live, it's a small community. It's a large area with about 800 people in it is all. So each place, each house has quite a bit of property. So as far as worrying about somebody coming up here, I'm not too concerned about that. I know my neighbors. Get to know your neighbors and decide whether or not you can depend on them or not. You need to do that. Most of my neighbors I can depend on to help with whatever we needed. So I'm tickled to death with that. So bugging in for us is the plan. I don't intend to bug out. If we get a nuclear explosion, if there's a nuclear war, I don't have to worry about it. I live close enough to the Richmond ammunition dump here in Bluegrass Army Depot that it doesn't matter. That's got a target painted on it. So I live close enough as the crow flies, about 6 miles from it. I get to go first. I don't have to worry about a nuclear thing. Stay low key. You need to be low key. Gray man. Gray man's a universal prepping idea that if you go somewhere, nobody's really going to ever recognize you. They're never going to remember you're there because you just didn't stand out. Okay? You were in the shadows and you just went by. You never talked to nobody. You didn't greet them. You didn't shake hands. You just eased on through and nobody ever knew you were there. That's the whole idea. Now, if something happens and you've got your solar panels out, all right, solar panels are going to be a great thing as long as we've got sunlight. But you've got your solar generator out. You don't want to be putting out a lot of light at night. Okay? That's, you're going to have to practice practices like your grandma and grandpa. You go to bed with the chickens and you get up with the chickens. You don't have lights and things. In Appalachia, when they use coal oil lamps, they didn't have light all the time. Okay? They went to bed when the chickens went to bed, and they got up when the chickens got up at dusk and daylight. All right? That's a thing. If you have to go somewhere. Now, I know a lot of people have these bug out bags, and they're 40 or 50 pounds worth of stuff. If you're going somewhere and you know your location's a bug in and you're wanting to get back, just carry what you have to have. Don't carry a big old bag that's obvious. Travel light because you may have to travel quick. All right? It might be one of those things that you want to get in and get out. Boom, boom, gone. And if you're lugging something around, you don't get in and get out. So you need to have the things that you would want to get in and get out already taken care of before this thing happens. And now, the last thing on my list is work with others. Lone wolf preppers will not survive. They'll be dangerous. They can have this stuff and they'll have guns and all this stuff, but the pandemic proved to me that your average prepper can't survive a week. All right? They can't survive a week. We had guys walking around with their guns at our Kentucky State Capitol, walking around with guns within a week of the shutdowns. They couldn't survive a week. They called themselves preppers, but they couldn't survive a week. One of them said, well, we deserve to go get a haircut. And I'm like, what the hell? Come on now. So everybody who calls herself a prepper does not have the mental capacity to actually be one. So pay attention. Form alliances. You'll do better. Me, for example, I have to have an alliance. If I can't get diesel for my tractor, I can't produce enough food. So I have to have some young folks to help me in the garden. All right? So there are those kinds of things that are going to happen. And I have enough for a year, but can I raise more? Well, I can't raise more without help. So I have the knowledge and the know-how, but I don't have the back for it anymore. So that's one of those things that you have to have. You have to form an alliance. And for all the bravado out there, that's stupid. Bravado in prepping is stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Avoid conflict at all costs. All right? Look, even a lion, if he thinks he might get hurt, will not attack a wildebeest. If he thinks he's going to get hurt, he won't attack a wildebeest because he can't afford it. He can't afford to get hurt. All right? So avoid conflict at all costs. It's just the best possible solution for a prepper or group of preppers. Be prepared to defend yourself. That's fine. That's fine. Train to defend yourself. But don't plan for conflict. Conflict gets you killed. Conflict gets everybody killed. Don't plan for conflict. Don't be aggressive. You know, you may have to aggressively go for stuff, but you can't be an in-your-face kind of person and be an efficient prepper. You just can't. That's just the way that is. Preppers who are real preppers, they avoid conflict at all costs. Okay? It's better to give up a little something than it is to give it all up. You see what I'm saying? You're better off to just, if you can just give a little something off and get away from the conflict, you're way better off. So bravado and all that stuff is not bravery, it's idiocy. Okay, that's all the rules when it comes to prepping for a major shit hits the fan. Okay? There are going to be those things that might come up, planning, all that. You need to do that. But the number one thing is you need to be calm. You need to be reflective. You need to be proactive. You need to be resilient. Okay? You need to have resilience built into your location so that you can weather almost any storm. You need to be able to think critically. You know, so many people get caught up in politics that they fail to think critically. And it's a mistake. It's a failing of theirs. They should get away from the political thought process and think about the common sense critical thinking stuff. You need to be prepared both physically and mentally. So when something happens, you're ready. You're ready for that. How well are you prepared today? Do you have enough food saved up? Do you have enough food saved up for a minor event? Do you have enough security saved up for a minor event? How about fiscal security? Are you fiscally secure? You need to think about all those things. All those things. Because in America, nobody owns anything. If you don't pay the property taxes on your home, even though you've bought it and paid for it, then they can come and take it from you. Okay? Nobody owns anything unless you can pay the taxes. Now, in a major thing, there ain't going to be no taxes. You won't have to worry about that. But there'll be taxes in other forms. So focus on the little things. Focus on the small prepping things. If you focus on the small prepping things, the big prepping things will fall into place. But always remember, you can't think logically when you're too stressed out. So if you've got the things that you know, you got enough food, you got enough water, your home's paid for, all those things, then you don't have those stresses on you too. So work on that fiscal responsibility and prepare for those little things. The little things are the ones that are always going to happen first, but these major things could occur. But if you're prepped for all the little things, then you're prepped for the major things as well. You just have to be creative. Now, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, prepping, doing it yourself kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this homesteading stuff every week, sometimes 1, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead that week. Now, right now it's the winter and we're doing these talkie videos, but we're going to get back to doing the gardening and the building videos soon. So now it's time for me to get on to the next thing. I love you all. Be prepared.